What happens when the road to building your dream starts by leaving home?
In the last episode, we explored the journey to success through themes like community, money, mentorship, and fulfillment. How founders like Marcia Skoberg found courage in the quiet moments and joy to do what they love.
But in today's episode, we are going beyond borders, literally. Because this time, the founder's journey isn't about finding a home in Canada. It's about leaving Africa to come back and build one.
This one's personal for me. As a Nigerian who came to Canada searching for tools, support, and opportunities that felt out of reach back home, I know what it means to live with the hope of returning stronger. Just before I left for Canada in August 2023, I attended a gaming event in Lagos where Africacomicade was featured. At the time, I was running a startup with Nigerian writers producing gaming content for media and esports platforms. We were thinking globally, but building in a space that still carried stigma around gaming and offered little validation or funding. Oscar was one of the first people to affirm that what I was doing had value. I even considered relocating to Lagos permanently if my visa didn't come true, as that is where the startup scene came alive. But I didn't want to stay stuck, undervalued, or tied to shaky deals out of desperation. I wanted room to grow. So I chose to leave, not to run away, but to build leverage. My visa came through just before I left Lagos. Now in Canada, I am studying data analytics and international business management, still holding on to the vision, waiting for the moment it aligns again. Platforms like Africacomicade and people like Oscar remind me that I do not have to start from scratch when I am ready to return. I just have to stay connected, and that is why the story hits close.
Today, we're talking about Africacomicade, a launchpad for African creatives in gaming, animation, and digital storytelling, co-founded by Oscar Michael in Lagos, Nigeria. Oscar's journey is not just about building an organization. It's about building a system where others can thrive. He started out as a game developer, but realized that to grow the industry, he had to build the ground it would stand on.
This whole entire journey started with my passion for games, right? I do love games. I love animation. I love comics. And when I learned I could create one myself, I was on that pathway of becoming like a full-fledged game developer because it made so much sense. I love games and I can create my own games. And that idea of being able to make money from building games was really exciting. And so I got into become like a game dev facilitator. I was managing a community of people who were building games back then. But the main idea behind Africacomicade came up from the fact that the business side of the games industry in Africa was hugely missing. There were barely any opportunities. There were barely studios you could look up to say, this is how they do it. I can follow their framework. And so what that meant was there are very little opportunities for game developers locally, except they want to compete globally. And that's what led me to say, you know what? This is a much more interesting problem to solve. Instead of building games, I'll build a system that would help people who build games become more sustainable. And that way we can build an industry that can cater to all.
It's a story about vision, barriers, and a dream to build something sustainable, not just for now, but for the next generation of African creatives.
So let's begin with Oscar's journey.
When Oscar started out, he just wanted to make games. But in Nigeria, where there were no studios, no internship pipelines, and no support infrastructure, it didn't take long to realize he'd have to build the house before anyone could play in it.
So he started Africacomicade, not as a game studio, but as an ecosystem, a space to connect developers, writers, animators, and artists to create opportunity where there was none.
Because for many creators in Africa, The problem isn't talent, it's traction. It's getting seen, getting supported, and getting funded.
Because Africacomicade is positioned itself to be that bridge between these two stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I've learned over the years is to empathize with both stakeholders. Creatives are creatives. They just want to express themselves. But the suits understand that no matter how passionate you are, you can only go as far unless you are sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always that battle between self-expression and sustainability. That's making, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very difficult thing to see. And now the first issue you come to see now is because it's an emerging market, yeah, the creatives don't have enough money to pay the suits. And suits are not just banks in this case. Suits can be a business developer. Suits
Mm-hmm.
can be a community manager, right? Suits can be an investor, right? Suit is basically in this aspect, anybody on the business side of it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And what we have is a huge divide. In this sector, most creatives are working alone and handling the business by themselves. And most are not paying attention to the business, right? And that is a huge constraint on both sides. Yes, there's a market opportunity, but can Africa utilize the potential of the market opportunity?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
That has been very difficult conveying because we've had studios that have lasted like a decade or so, and people are like, okay, you've stayed for up to 10 years. Where is the growth? Where is the traction? What are the numbers? And creatives are not really about numbers.
Imagine being so passionate about your craft that you build the entire industry just so others can have a shot.
And still, despite building platforms, fellowship, and mentorship programs, the barriers remain.
This is where the story hits deeper for me, because I know what it means to leave. Not because you do not believe in your country, but because you want to build something for it.
Oscar calls it a strategic relocation. Many creatives are now setting up in Canada, Germany, and farther regions, not to disconnect from home, but to gather strength and resources to send back.
And my perspective is if you can leave, leave. Really. Yeah, if you can leave. Because not everybody will be able to stay back to build, right? But also, more importantly, not everybody should stay back and build. We also need people out there. How do they put it? They say it works both ways. Bridges work both ways, right? And one thing I've noticed is the game developers in our community that have worked for global studios or are working for global studios or have traveled out, their experience is broader because they are working on more advanced projects. It's the creative industry. It's not an industry of you go to a classroom and you're an expert. It's the kind of project you work on determines your knowledge. I've noticed that the way they communicate, the things they know is bigger. And we need that. We really do need that. Also, the access, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even in the normal tech startup space, you see there is always that exchange. And that physical exchange builds more trust, whether we like it or not. So they need to travel, interact with people they learn, then they can bring back. And those who are staying back on the continent, their job is to create good systems so that when these people come back, they can easily thrive.
But there's a cost. Leaving makes you an outsider, even back home.
Exactly. You go to gain legitimacy, but returning, that's where it gets complex. Because the very system you want to fix might not know what to do with you.
I've noticed that a lot of people that travel wish they can come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that travel with the aim of coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But what normally happens is change in Africa is very slow. Very true. Because there's a lot of blockers. And the longer you stay out there, the more exposed you are to systems that work the way it is said. And when you now organize yourself, coming back to an unstructured system, mind you, there's a system in the chaos in Africa. It's just where you move around it is different. Coming back becomes very difficult for these people. So for those who are back, I think what we can do is create that structure system for them to plug into. And for anyone that can go, please go. There's so much to learn. There's so much I don't know. I'm still learning. There's so much I'm learning from people who have gone. And we need that bridge, that plug. There should be the plug and the socket, right?
Eventually.
They come together. So yeah, that's what I say.
This is what Oscar is trying to change. He believes passion alone isn't enough. You can't feed yourself with creativity if the system around you is starving.
That's why Africacomicade doesn't just build opportunities for fun, it builds for sustainability, for revenue, for structure, for the long game.
When we asked Oscar what the future looks like, he didn't just talk about growth. He talked about rebuilding trusts, networks, and long-term systems that outlive the founders themselves.
I had a 10-year vision for Africacomicade, like working with it to see if is this industry that, yeah, I see the potential, but is it something that is going to also be able to sustain me as an individual? Now, in the next 5 years, from 2025 to 2030, we are following a different approach. We want to now start making, we want an industry that is pro-revenue. Because for the last 5 years, we've done a lot of things from the complete non-profit perspective, where we're not looking to make. But now we're going to still be that social enterprise, which we've always been, but more pro-revenue, so that there can be a proper exchange of value. When we started, we were not paying any staff. We were working with volunteers for like 2-3 years, like for like 2 years, more than 2 years, actually. But over the years, we now started paying people, and we started seeing how even the quality of work is improving with people getting paid, because everybody needs that kind of ecosystem. So from Africacomicade, we are looking more into seeing how we've supported some businesses to grow. We've learned with them over the years. Now we're looking to see the studios raising good amount of funding to actually build what they want to build. And they will be building projects backed by data, right? That's one thing. We're also going to now start launching our products. We have had a couple of products over the years, but we've held back on that because of timing. From our own perspective, that was not the right time to be pushing products. And we had many things going on at the same time as well. I think one other thing now is also expanding the physical reach. In the past, we've done a bulk of our physical events in Nigeria, a bulk of them. But now we're expanding that. Say, for example, this year, the Gameathon will be happening in more than one country. We'll be looking at ensuring our community members make money as well, so that there can be a proper exchange of value. And we can now start having those metrics that make our sector much more investable.
Oscar's story isn't about leaving. It's about building a bridge, a way to take what's out there and bring it home.
It's about making sure creatives don't have to choose between survival and their dreams.
And for me, it's about hope. That the work we do outside our countries isn't an escape. It's a seed. Something bigger, something sustainable, and something that lasts.
We're trying to tell people to go more into social entrepreneurship. There's that ideology of games for good, animation for good. And that way you are seen not just as a creative studio, but you are seen as a business. And some studios have followed that pathway. We have Green Quest, run by Grace James. She just recently won the Fuse Challenge, got like 7.5 million naira. There's
amazing.
So many startups there, and a game studio startup focused on using games to educate the next generation about climate change won the pitch. That's amazing.
Yep.
We have what's the name? Enechawat Studios from Ethiopia. That is a part of the MasterCard EdTech program. They were able to get a grant of about $50,000 upward, and they are building animation that is teaching the Ethiopian language, a language that is almost facing out because everybody is going to English. Onyx Games, O Games in Ghana, who won the African Skills Entrepreneurship Program, the challenge, where they are building games as well that is teaching children, right? Children, youth, the opportunities are endless. We have Fin Masters in South Africa using games to teach financial literacy, and not even just video games, now card games.
Thank you to Oscar and the Africacomicade team for showing us what's possible when you fight to make space. not just for yourself, but for others.
And thank you to our listeners, to Enactus Durham College, and to every organization that supported this season of Founders Drive.
Next time, when you hear creatives say they are leaving, do not ask why. Ask what they are building and who they are bringing with them. We also have a bonus episode for you this season, produced by our Enactus Says colleagues in Calgary. They'll have stories of newcomer entrepreneurs from Western Canada in our final episode.